Oh, Wesley said he'll be joining us soon.
All right, and with that, I believe we are all set to go. I have live transcription up on the Zoom here. And yeah, I think we're streaming on YouTube. So yeah, you can go ahead and start the meeting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ethan. Thank you, everyone, for being here on time. We're going to go ahead and get started with our November 7th StudEx meeting. It is our second to last meeting we have this semester before a full Senate to approve legislation. So yeah, the semester went by pretty fast. And we can go ahead and get started with officer reports, which are the first item in our agenda. Let me just share my screen real quick so that everyone can see. All right. And with that, we can go ahead and begin this list of officer reports. The first one being from our student body president, Naya. Yeah, you can go ahead, Naya.
Cool. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Sometimes, like, my camera thing's been acting weird, so sometimes my, like, sound stuff don't work good. So if that's the case, just interrupt me and let me know, and I'll fix it. Thank you. Okay, cool. So I'll start with, I had been working with Sadie, Hamad, Andrew, and Dr. Durham to allocate funds from the presidential endowment account. So we were able to establish 2 endowment accounts that are going to benefit students, one being Watkins Health and the other pertaining to the Equal Opportunity Fund. And like, if there's any like additional questions, like I would reach out to like Sadie, Hamad, Andrew for those specifically, because they can kind of give you more like in-depth on that. The associate treasurer position has been filled, and our new executive officer will be announced and acclimated at this Wednesday's full Senate meeting. Super excited. Message of support for students from the SAC committee has been sent up to Dr. Durham. So I'll be working with her to discuss how to best distribute that to all KU students, because the intention of that message of support itself was between myself and some of the other SAC presidents in their respective campuses. I met with the Women's Leadership Committee this week. It was our first meeting to begin planning our Women in Leadership event in March, which I'm super excited about. We got a lot of good progress done at that meeting. Met with our DEI director and our grad student VP and Dr. Graham, Vice Provost of DEI, to discuss campus efforts. And I'll let Daphne give like more details, but I felt like it was a very productive meeting overall for DEI. Working with the SGD and Dr. Joseph, the new Assistant Vice Provost of DEI, and Dr. Durham to discuss support of the student trans closet that the SGD has established, how the presidential endowment may additionally fund this is something that I've been working on and looking into this year. I'll be meeting with other Black student leaders this week to discuss initiatives on campus and how Student Senate may collaborate and build partnership with these historically excluded communities on campus. So I'll have more of an update on that later, but I'm really excited for that. I have a follow-up meeting with the Lawrence Sunrise Movement to discuss student involvement and input of the city's climate action plan. More info on that will be posted from our communications director, so be looking out for that in the next week or two. And this week I've been working with several exec staff members on different projects that they have been working on that's going to be benefiting our campus community and then also our Student Senate members as a whole. So be looking out for that. I'm super excited about it. And then I will also be using the next few weeks to determine how to best serve my executive staff moving forward in their roles. And also as fellow students and people, I recognize that there's been a lack of communication between myself and my office members, and I just wanted to make clear that it is a big commitment of mine to rectify that moving forward, and just showing up and being as supportive to my staff as I possibly can. So yeah, that's the end of my report. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat or out loud, whatever works. Otherwise, we can keep it moving.
Thank you very much, Naya. Do folks have any questions for our president? If you do, feel free to just jump in and ask it. All right, seeing none, we can move to our next officer report, which is our student body vice president, Ethan Rourke.
A little bit of a slowdown to the Zoom. All right, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so to begin my report here, a final version of the SSR rewrite will be presented as a part of Cycle 7's legislative agenda. A lot of hours of research, discussion, and debate has produced what we believe to be a valid framework for us to finish out this week through all of the SSR rewrite meetings that we've had over the semester and discussions we've had with senators and Student Senate exec staff members. We believe that we're moving towards something that a lot of people will really like in the Cycle 7 here. And per the recommendation of the Student Rights Committee, it will most likely be sent to committees in the following way. Not committing to this yet because we still do have until that date to assign the legislation, but I believe it will be going, the elections code and article on referendum and initiatives will be sent to student rights and university affairs. The budget code will be sent to student rights and finance, and the remainder of the amended document shall be sent to student rights and the DEI committee. And so that's a way in which we're hoping to basically allow every standing committee of the Student Senate to have a part of like approving this document and approving what Student Senate will look like in the foreseeable future due to that. If you have any questions regarding the document, feel free to reach out to Humberto and I as we're doing like the main final rewrite version on a document here. And so, yeah. Next, on this past Wednesday, the MS teams did experience usability issues during committee meetings during the Cycle 6 meeting. However, it has now been fully restored thanks to some valuable assistance from KUIT, and we find ourselves actually better prepared and better able to handle governance on the Student Senate teams following this incident with the implementation of new teams rules, a new teams owner structure, and a few new channels to really ease that process. And let's see here. Number 3 here, I attended the University Senate meeting this week with Holly and our StudEx representatives. Jeff DeWitt, KU CFO, gave an update on the university's financial status, overall saying that the university continues to receive, as of right now, federal COVID-19 relief funding for higher ed, but doesn't have a reliable financial support to maintain its current budget in the following years. So that means that KU is going to look to increase tuition fees and housing rates in their recommendation to the Kansas Board of Regents, with the reasoning for specifically the housing increase being that housing needs to put in some much needed maintenance work and consider its debt payments as primary concerns on other buildings. And so ultimately, this administration believes that students should not have to pay for a building to lack leaky ceilings or other basic structural issues that are being considered the basic standard for providing student housing in our facilities here. And so we're looking to hopefully have a discussion concerning the student housing rates and make sure that we have a say in what gets presented to KBOR at that level. And in other reference to that, I attended StudEx this week with Holly and our StudEx representatives, and the Associate Vice Provost Jeff Chasen discussed needs in the human resources area of KU administration, with issues ranging from staff needs and KU recognizing that raises need to happen, management options or something that are becoming a consideration at KU, because ultimately we're looking at an issue of staff retention at our university, especially with like a decrease in federal and not federal state funding here. And so that's going to be an issue that is reviewed by KU Human Resources. Another thing is student access to HR resources and conflict management. a lot of students usually look up to a lot of their supervisors and management as sort of like a mentor relationship to some degree. And so students need to have access to sort of like what HR remedies they can have for conflicts that they have in their job roles and like be more equipped to handle what KU has in its HR system there. And then finally looking for increases in student wages once again for this year when we do look at like how we're like compensating employees across the university. The AVP job search for the Office of Student Affairs is moving forward with on-campus interviews for potential job candidates. This will be taking place in mid-November, and more information will be forthcoming as public on-campus interview opportunities are announced to the KU community, I believe sometime in the next week or so. Next, in our one-on-one with Dr. Durham following our last StudEx meeting, we were able to receive some project updates from them. We are meeting with student housing in 2 weeks to discuss their suicide prevention training for housing staff and what that training's role should look like in the future for student housing. And then we will also be discussing Student Senate housing initiatives for gender inclusive housing, intentional communities in student housing's residence halls and scholarship halls. And some housekeeping stuff as we near the end of this report here. The legislative deadline for cycle 7 has been changed to the 15th of November, 2021 at 5 p.m. So if you know any senators, student groups, and or other on-campus entities that need legislation written before the end of this year, please do so by this date. There will be an extra week between the standing committees and full Senate due to conflicts with Thanksgiving break as well. So the Student Senate meeting will be on the 1st of December at 6:30 p.m. rather than during that week there. And finally, I would like to say that over the course of the entire semester, it's been brought to the attention of a few StudEx members that a startling trend where a large number of our student senators are not attending Student Senate standing committee meetings in person or online without reporting that information to the appropriate standing committee secretaries. So I feel like I must reiterate here that it is part of the responsibilities of student senators to attend these standing committee meetings. And if we continue to have attendance issues here, and that includes issues of meeting quorum, issues of like having enough people to discuss pertinent topics relative to the committee, we'll have to commence another comprehensive attendance review that includes both full Senate and standing committee attendance records as SSR provides. And this really just, stems to the issues and representation we're having in our legislative branch as of right now. And just looking at solutions in which we could help this. If anyone else has any other recommendations, I would love to hear them, as we really do need to solve this issue, especially as we're looking to pass the student fee this next semester. We need student representation in these areas, in these bodies, so that we can have a truly representative campus fee package coming out of that. And so with that, I will pause here for questions.
Thank you very much. Do folks have any questions for Ethan?
I think I saw Wesley raise his hand at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, Wesley, go ahead.
Yes, I have two questions. My first is, will there be a final rewrite meeting this week? And is the Google Doc still the most accurate for what's in the rewrite and what's not in the rewrite? And the second question is, has Senate suggested the Chancellor and Provost cut their staff or make personal pay and cut their departments first before charging students more?
Okay, so for the first question there, so we will, well, at least we haven't planned a rewrite meeting to happen this week. Generally, since we've been seeing poor attendance at those meetings, especially over the last month and a half here, we didn't think that having like a formal meeting would be worth it in that way. So Umberto and I have been doing sort of like highly personable like rewrite structures for that. I would say that the comment doc, though, is still fairly accurate because it's what we're lifting the sections from and reorganizing them into there. And on the other note there, for that, we haven't done that advocacy in regards to those administrative offices, because we haven't even gotten to that level of the discussion. It was a conversation that happened at the University Senate during a Q&A with Jeff DeWitt, the university CFO, and so we will foresee like more discussions coming from that. And I mean, hopefully we can have still like a flat student housing rate increase, but that'll just be up to the conversations I think that we have with those officials there. Did that answer your question, at least to like the best of my ability here, Wesley?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other ones, Umberto?
Any other questions?
Oh, Sadie.
I just wanted to echo Wesley's sentiments. I threw it in the chat there too for you all, but I think that could be really helpful whenever it comes to like fee deliberations and things, is understanding where the university is effectively allocating their funds and things like that. So I think that could be a worthwhile conversation moving forward. I know you have that's like forward thinking, but I think that could be a good place to have an honest conversation with administration, given that we have had pretty stagnant growth in terms of student body, but an increase of administrators over the past like 3 decades.
I mean, I def say you're not wrong, Sadie, and I would be remiss to say that this isn't the appropriate area to have that discussion as the student executive committee. But yeah, I think that we probably do need to come up with like a more constituted student stance on the issue, especially as we go into those conversations in the next semester. So yeah, I would fully echo your sentiments there.
No, we don't need to talk about it now. I just wanted to put it on your radar for fee since that's like coming up soon.
Yes, thank you, Sadie. Wesley, did you still have another question or did you just leave the hand raised?
That was just me not remembering to put my hand down.
Awesome. Okay, Umberto.
All right, thank you. Any final questions? See, now we can move to our next officer report, which is Holly Hall, our graduate student vice president.
Hi everyone, I'm going to do this quick because I have a really sore throat, but trying to type it up was just stressful, so I'm just going to speak. GSAB met this week. We also had a graduate student meetup. Both went pretty well. We discussed wanting the provost to attend meetings more, and we also discussed the increase of the student insurance that will be going up that I mentioned at the last full Senate. We have a couple investigations I need to make based on that, because it seems that some GTAs are appointed at a 0.4 FTE, which means that they don't get insurance. And so that means they're having to pay out of pocket, and it looks like that for the voluntary plan, and it looks like that plan is going to increase by quite a lot. So trying to do some advocacy work on that. And the meetup was really good. The Office of Graduate Studies and I co-hosted a meetup with graduate students to just pop in on Wednesday morning. That went really well. Naya spoke about the meeting with Dr. Graham for DEI, and I know Daphne's going to talk about that more. I'll just bring up the one thing that I talked about on that, which was having more training for GTAs, GRAs, and GAs, because the training specifically in GTA training is really bad. And as a GA, I didn't get any training because GAs just have to do the mandatory online training. So looking to partner and make better use of trainings for graduate students in the future. I brought up to University Senate that we will be doing the resolution in regards to the area study centres, and that once that gets passed on Wednesday, we'll be putting that out to University Senate for a vote for them to sign on to that. So that's really good news. Most of the faculty and staff members there were very supportive of that. That's what I can remember right now, but I'm not feeling too great. And I have had a lot of other meetings, but that's what I'm going to say for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. Do folks have any questions for our grad vice president?
Oh, I forgot one thing that I just remembered. Is that okay? Okay. I will be giving up my office to Umberto, our chief of staff, because I don't really utilize it, and I do have a workspace at home which I prefer to use as a disabled individual. And so after next Wednesday's full Senate, that office will now be Umberto's office, and I will be very able to communicate with you all via text, phone call, or on Zoom. So just wanted to let everybody know that. That was just an update for staff, really.
Thank you very much, Holly. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we can go ahead and move to my officer report. So basically, we have a couple of new senators coming in as replacement senators. I've met individually with every single new senator that's been coming, including our freshman senators and all the replacement senators that are going to be acclimated this next Wednesday. And very exciting, they all have great ideas. They all seem very excited and very eager to be engaged with Senate, so that's pretty good. I think that will put off for the big gap there was between COVID and now. I think having almost like a year and a half online really fractured networking in the Senate and like a certain fabric. And so, just having it in person and having a new generation of Jayhawks who are just like mostly freshmen or sophomores to like be senators and be so engaged is a good sign, so that they can build up again from all that was lost in those 2 years almost of COVID. So yeah, that's very exciting. And then having that in mind, only until now that senator seats are being filled again, we have been able to create the review committee for applications for the courts, because as you may remember, this so before there was only there was a couple people on the courts, from before this year. Then this year came and they left, leaving only one person in the court. And Dr. Tuttle said one person was enough to handle the first year elections, and that as long as we had the courts filled before the next election, we would be good. But of course, I didn't want to wait until the next election to fill the courts in case somebody appealed. And so we started the process to fill that up, but then a bunch of the senators that were in that committee ended up resigning. And then so that had to be paused to get new senators in place and also to hire a new associate treasurer. So finally now, after that big pause, next week, the new review process committee is going to meet. We're going to fill up the courts. And the courts actually will have a first case to review, actually depending on how things go on StudEx tonight. But basically, the DEI fund, voted down funds for Bridges International, which is like an international student-focused Christian organization. And TAN actually is not able to be here because they have a flight, although they knew about it and they thought they would be able to make it. But in that case, they did send me a bunch of things they wanted to say about why it got voted down. But basically, in SSRR, it says you can't fund religious events, and that's why they got turned down. But they filed an appeal saying this is unconstitutional, and that it's a lot of reasons that I'll explain later on in the meeting. But so that's going to be a case they examine probably, unless we here at StudEx decide, that maybe those are some rules we got to change in SSRR, and then they can get reviewed again. But with that being said, yeah, I would say those are most of my updates I have of most importance right now. And yeah, any questions for me?
Do you have any questions for Umberto? All right, I don't really see any, so I guess, yeah, hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ethan. And I know Hamad will or may have already sent their officer report into the channel, as they do it through YouTube. So yeah, you can go check that out there. But with that being said, we can move to Miriam and Radia's officer report from our CCO.
Hello, friends. I'm going to keep our officer report relatively short. So we hired new program coordinators for our Jubilee program, as well as Project Bridge and Milk. Milk is mentorship with kids. Jubilee is like a restaurant style soup kitchen type deal. And Project Bridge deals with language literacy. So yeah, we hired new program coordinators for that. We also gave them a training at our last core meeting on Tuesday, which was very successful. we're looking forward to working with them. We also, starting on the 8th up until the 19th of November, we have a food drive happening as a collaboration between our COS program as well as Jubilee. So at Wesco Beach and in the Union, they'll be tabling Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 2 weeks. And then also there'll be bins dispersed at a couple of sorority houses as well as just around campus. And we have like flyers and stuff that'll be circling around. And so yeah, if you have canned items or jackets or blankets or any kind of warm items you'd like to donate, you can absolutely do so. You can drop them off in those bins. And there will also be a raffle for a certain amount of cans and jacket items. So you can be entered for that as well. So yeah, if you have any of those in your closets or in your pantries, we'd really appreciate that. They'll be donated to the Lawrence Community Shelter, the Campus Cupboard, Lawrence Region, Kansas, and a few other places in Lawrence. So we're looking forward to that. I have started to meet with Sabina bi-weekly, or monthly, just depending on how often we need it. Probably most likely along with Radia as well, just for the sake of budget accountability with the managing director. Traditionally, that's not really something that's, incorporated in the position, but I think that's important just because we're dealing with so much money as a nonprofit. So that's one initiative for me. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is we hosted a very successful COVID testing drive last week. I can't remember what day, but we successfully tested over 200 students. There'll be some other drives around campus and in Lawrence as well. There'll be one on Mass the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can volunteer at volunteer.ku.edu. And yeah, at these COVID drives, you are entered to win a gift, or you're not even entered to win. As soon as you get tested, you get a gift card. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, that's all the updates I have for us.
Any questions for Miriam? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Miriam. We can move on to our next officer report, which will be Daphne, our Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
Hello. Okay, so I spent most of my time this past week and a half looking into KBOR regulations and the way that they affect the diversity framework at the university. Like Naya said, Holly and I met with DA Graham on Friday, and we talked about the DEIB framework, but not super in-depth because we ran out of time. Mostly we talked about diversity training and what that looks like for students on campus, but more specifically employees and student employees, and as of now they are working on the mandated diversity training that will be rolled out to faculty and staff, and DA Graham did share with us that diversity training cannot be mandated for student employees because of the way that state legislation is set up and KBOR funds our schools, so that's kind of not super fun, but I'm going to look more into that and see what we can do about that. They also shared with us that out of the non-mandatory training, 78% of the students that were sent the training for diversity training did complete it on EverFi. But again, because DEI isn't considered a legal category, we can't specifically mandate diversity training for student employees. In order to do that, we'd have to get KBOR and Governor Kelly on board, which, knowing that, kind of changes the way that I want to handle and go about hosting the DEI retreat, which is something that I'm going to talk to Naya about hopefully tomorrow if I see her in the office, before I share more details on that. But moving forward, they have a lot of programming student related that's going to come out that hopefully they're going to reach out to me, and I'm going to be one of the students that tests the programs and sees if there are anything more specific that we need to do. So when those trainings start coming out, I will update on those and what they look like. But they're hoping that they should be formatted and put out by the next school year. And again, are focusing on prioritizing students and getting over all the disconnect. But generally, that's pretty much all of the big updates I have. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much, Daphne. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we can move to our next officer report, which is by Ariana, our Director of Policy and Development.
Hi, everyone. So the past 2 weeks, or I guess since the last time I gave an officer report, I have been working on the warm clothes / coat drive with our student body president. We really got into like the logistics of everything. So I am in contact with people from the union to set up our distribution event, and am in contact with Aramis Watson from housing to set up donation boxes around campus. So if anyone knows of where I can find any like big boxes, please let me know, or Naya know, because we're looking for them. We also started to plan a self-care night for our members of Student Senate. We realized that, we do a lot of work, and a lot of people in Senate, especially those who go unpaid, do a lot of work. So we decided to put on a night that's going to be super chill, super fun for everyone. Something that's not, so like high strung and, tension filled, and we want a space where everyone can feel like we can just hang out and get to know each other. So we're trying to plan on doing that like towards the end of the semester. We also talked about, I've been wanting to do a civil rights education initiative with the ACLU like organization that we have here at KU. That is something that I'm hoping to put on like next semester, and hopefully not have it be like a one-time thing, but something that would be like multiple times throughout the semester, so people could like more people could come, if that makes sense. That is all that I have for right now, so I am open to questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ariana? All right, seeing none, we can move to our next officer report, which is by our comms director, Asia, who is currently coaching debates right now, but I do have some updates from Asia. And so just to share with you real quick, there will be the new website, which hopefully will be complete by the end of this week. And Asia will also be establishing a more in-depth social media calendar for posts and outreach, just so that we can all know kind of when new posts are gonna be up, and maybe we can just contribute with ideas or etc., stuff like that. But yeah, so that would be the officer report for our comms director. And with that being said, we can move on to the next one, which would be by Max, our director of internal affairs.
Hi, everyone. The main thing for me this week is the internal demographics survey. That went well. Around 40 people filled it out, which is actually really good turnout, given that that is more people than consistently show up to full Senate. So I am taking that data now. I'll be kind of making different graphs and stuff with it, and then presenting it in full Senate this week. It looks like we have a pretty, we hit most of the metrics we needed to. We've got a pretty diverse body in most of the categories, which is really good. There are some areas that we can improve in, but I'll obviously be going over that in full Senate. The mentorship program, as always, is open if anyone knows someone that needs the link to that. Additionally, we haven't been getting many applicants to that, so I made a flyer this week with a QR code to apply, so I'm planning on posting it around campus this coming week on the different bulletin boards, and hopefully that will be up on the website soon. And then Naya and I have been working on, well, for one, we're trying to reach out to Dr. Durham to get all the committees and boards filled that aren't filled, so that they can effectively do the fees. And it looks like we've got a pretty good chance of that. And then I believe Ariana and Naya are putting on an event, like a trivia night or something, where we can get to know other senators. So I have like a Google form where you can fill out fun facts about yourself, and that'll go out to all the senators soon. So that's all from me, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Max. Any questions for our Director of Internal Affairs?
This isn't a question, but I just wanted to say I went ahead and posted the link to the KU Student Senate Internal Demographics Survey in the chat. So if folks want to share that around for people who may not have had the chance to fill it out yet, so we can still get some of those results before the deadline tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that, Ethan. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Our next officer report will be by Birdie, our Director of Government Relations.
Okay. Hey, everyone. So I have mainly been focused on holidays in higher ed. So that has been all like booked and scheduled. I said last time it was December 2nd. It still is. But I think we're going to expand it to be a little bit bigger since we're having it on campus this year. And invitations for that are going to start rolling out this week. But if anyone has any like senators or students specifically that you think should be invited, or people from like administration or like local or state government that you think wouldn't normally be thought of but you think should be invited, please let me know. I want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases and that, you know, it can be as productive as possible. But that's mostly what I've been working on. And then I've just been talking a little bit with Ethan about the future of Slack. So if anybody has input on that, feel free to let me know. But that is all I've got for today.
Thank you. Any questions for Birdie? See none, we can move to our next officer report, which is by the chair of UA, Faith.
Hey, so I decided to take a little vacation, and then the week that I decided to take that vacation, obviously everything was down. So I had my vice chair run it, but just because of how many issues there was regarding teams, we ended up not meeting quorum, and then we just decided to call that meeting. So within the next few weeks, I'm going to really try hard to make sure that we're staying on track. We're getting everyone in there, we're meeting quorum, and so we're doing all those good things. So it's been a pretty slow week on my end, but the next few weeks I'm hoping to really buckle down and try to figure out a plan to have more people and more folks join, so that way we can have a more inclusive and full space. But
Thank you, Faith. Any questions for the chair of UA? All right. I don't think Emma Whitaker is here, so we can go ahead and listen to this officer report of Sadie, the chair of finance.
Hello, everyone. So for finance this past week, it was mostly just like 2 consent agenda item bills, 1 reallocation request, and then finance committee elections. There were 2 undergraduate members elected to finance committee fee review from finance. It was Camden Baxter and Andrew Moore. And then no undergraduate members were elected at the finance meeting. And so I'll be coordinating with Holly later on this week, no rush, Holly, whenever you're feeling better, we'll figure it out. And to try and find that graduate representation, because it's incredibly important if you're at like everything, but especially with fee review. And then in addition to that, been coordinating the logistics for fee review and have that schedule finalized. Yes, mid-grad. For the schedule and things like that, I have it. If any of you want to see it, just let me know. And so right now it's set to take place during cycle 2 weeks, which is January 31st to February 5th, I think. And so it's a new schedule. There's going to be a pilot year. We're going to try it out, see how it goes and things like that. But I'm optimistic that it's going to be a lot better than in years past in a variety of the meanings of the term. And then in addition to that, I still have not heard from any of the other chairs. I know with like everything that happened, that like some elections weren't able to happen and whatnot. So if you all could just keep me posted on where you're at with electing your fee review like representatives, that would be awesome. And then because of everything with teams and things, it kind of messed with the training schedule. And so this week I'm going to be brainstorming a different means of going about that, because that education is really important to having a student's fee week. But we also need to get that done before finals, ideally. And so if any of you have any thoughts on that, just let me know. Apart from that, we've been having pretty good attendance, which is nice. And yeah, that's like the bulk of what I had for finance. So it's fun times, fees coming up. Also, on that note, although most members of exec, not all, but most members of exec are not voting members, I want to take this time, and I will be repeating this as we get closer and like throughout the week, to encourage you all to attend as many hearings and deliberations as possible. Having your presence there is really important to like also one, like hold like the representatives accountable, and then also like in your roles and things like that, each of you represent a very unique set of like responsibilities and perspectives for the student body that I think are incredibly important. And so having you all present when you can be, that caveat is important. So when you can be and it's not too much for you all is really important. And so, yeah.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Do folks have any questions about finance or fee? All right, thank you so much. And with that, we can go to our final officer report, which is by Wesley, the chair of the Rights Committee.
To start off, we did elect one representative to fee review. We are hoping to fill the second seat next cycle as new students join. If not, someone from the exec will probably fulfill the seat until someone else can, although they probably will not be able to do full attendance, sadly, but that is an issue we are still working on. To talk about the issue of attendance, Rights is now purchasing pizza during committee weeks to promote attendance. Our first week was poorly promoted, but we have printed flyers and are working to fix that. If a student is not going to Rights specifically, but going to any of the other committees during that time, they can still get the pizza, but we do encourage going to Rights. We are also planning on introducing legislation next cycle on the revocation of the delegation of student representation to AURH and other housing groups due to their financial conflicts of interest with student housing and the inability to advocate for students effectively. Finally, a student has approached me about transphobia issues in housing. Housing is refusing to allow students to book rooms with roommates who said they'll accept gender nonconforming students, encouraging them instead to move to Stouffer, presumably to help pay housing's debts. I have met with MFMDEI already, and I'll be meeting with the president tonight on how to move forward with that issue and that violation of student rights. Rights is also planning on advocating for Haskell student IDs to be valid, like KU IDs, to waive bus fees. Considering that Senate has considerable financial leverage over transit, Senate should be able to achieve this within a school year. And I will be meeting with the finance chair and the president about moving forward with this plan as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wesley. Do we have any questions for the chair of Rights? Sounds good. Seeing none, we can go ahead and move on to our next item in the agenda. That does conclude all of our officer reports. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and for updating our group of Senate, just what we're all up to. So the first item we have here is review last Wednesday's legislation. So this is mostly the funding bills that didn't go through a second committee, because I do know, thankfully, all the funding bills were able to go through finance. That means we just need them to go through a second committee in order for them to be considered in the full Senate. And StudEx does have the ability of acting as a standing committee under certain circumstances. And Wednesday, like the previous Wednesday that Microsoft Teams went down, would qualify as one of those circumstances. So now having voting members here, we're gonna just look at them real quick. A lot of them are general funding, so they literally should not take any time at all. So this is gonna be a really quick and fun activity we do here. So we are gonna go ahead and start with a bill to fund Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students. So as it says here in the legislation tracker, this is a general funding bill. So I don't know why it went down. Yeah, $100 for general funding. And if folks have any questions, feel free to ask them. If not, I'll be looking for a motion to call this bill into question.
Bertha, could I just add another explanation to like sort of like the standing committee action that we take as StudEx?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Ethan?
Could I add like another point of like clarification for actions we take as a standing committee when we're doing that as students?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like when we're in this period of acting as a standing committee, we're also not allowed to amend any legislation due to conflicts of interest of us acting as well as a compromise committee during this role as a standing committee. So like all legislation has to be passed like as is, as it was sent to the committees there. So that was just an extra point of clarification I wanted to add in case like anything else that nature came up as we reviewed these bills.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ethan. So yeah, I'll be looking for a motion.
Motion to pass or to call this legislation into question.
That would be in order. Is there a second?
Can I second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I second.
Awesome. It's been properly moved and seconded. So all those in favor of calling this bill into question, please make a reaction on the chat or something. Awesome. All opposed? Abstentions? This motion passes. So we are now voting on the bill to fund Minority Association of Pre-Med Students. If you are a voting member, please say aye in the chat.
Or nay, or abstain, depending on your point of view.
Sorry, yeah, I know, of course. Only say aye if you're feeling the bill. If not, you can say nay or abstain. Sounds good. This bill clearly gets approved. Thank you very much, folks. And so let me just put this here in, oh shit, not red, in green. What green is it? Oh, there we go.
You should also edit it to sort of like state which committee ended up passing. Probably.
I want to put it here. No, I'm just gonna put it here. Passed by StudEx. All right. We are gonna go ahead and move on to our next bill, which is also a general funding bill of $100 for the Latin American Graduate Organization.
Motion to call the question.
That would be in order. That would be also in order. Is there any opposition to call this bill into question? All right, seeing none, then we can go ahead and vote on this bill. All those in favor of approving this bill, please say aye in the chat. Nay to oppose, or just abstain otherwise.
Will you repeat the name of the bill? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So this is bill.
It's a bill to fund Lago.
Yeah, bill 2022 027.
Thanks.
All right. With that, that's an approval vote. So yay for that. And let me write here real quick that it was passed by StudEx.
Question. Now that I'm also seeing it, Sadie, did that request to reallocate funds get approved?
Yep, it was approved by finance, and so that one doesn't need to go through us because it's just finance.
Yeah, I just wanted it to know if like it needed to be highlighted greener. Whatever.
Yeah, no, it's good. They were fine with it.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. And the next ones are actually this one, a bill to amend SSRR did not pass through rights, so it just won't be considered in the full Senate. And then a resolution in support of the Center for CLACs and other centers will just come in through full Senate as committee of a whole. So this already puts, this helps us not prevent any organizations from receiving funding, despite we having technical difficulties. So thank you all so much. And with that, we can move on to our next item in the agenda, which would be, now that we have figured out these bills over here, then we can, actually I haven't, it's right here. Vote on the agenda for full Senate. Let me just change the date here. November 7, 8, 9, 10. Is it the 11th? 10th. Okay. November 10th. There we go. So, the two funding general consent agenda, and then we got the request to reallocate funds and a bill. Oh, actually.
Is that the resolution?
No, I put it on both by accident. Yeah. And yeah, so in the regular agenda, we'll have the resolution coming through. And in the officer reports, as I said, we will be swearing in the new, we'll be acclimating our new replacement senators and the associate treasurer. Yeah. Do I see a motion from anyone for this?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Sounds good. It's been properly moved. Do I see a second?
From Sadie.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to voting on this right now? Seeing none, yeah, if you would like to approve this agenda, please say aye in the chat, nay to oppose, or just say abstain if you would like to abstain. Perfect. All right, so agenda for full Senate has been approved. And this leads us to the next item in our agenda. Let me open it real quick again. Which is discussion regarding funding for religious groups and events. So this over here.
Motion, Umberto?
Yeah.
If I could have the floor, can I motion to amend the agenda to put transit appointments above that discussion so that we can go ahead and get that done, and then after that discussion, move towards announcements?
Oh, good idea, because we do need quorum for the appointments, but not for the discussion. So good idea. Yeah, that's a proper motion. Do I see a second for that motion?
Second from Sadie.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to this move? All right, then we are gonna go ahead and discuss transit appointments right now. It will only give me 5 seconds while I open the list of the transit appointments, and then we can vote upon them.
Wait, Umberto, maybe don't share your email.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ethan.
So I don't know about y'all, but like I'm also incredibly excited that weather is turning warmer this next week.
Yeah, I'm super high. Woo! But then it'll get cold again. All right, I have the list over here. So basically the 3 student appointments that we will be having for the Transit Commission, we have Danielle Wolf. Danielle used to be, in the Senate, but unfortunately she isn't the senator anymore due to time commitment issues. So it's great that they'll be able to be helping us through transit. Then we have Martine, and I know Martine has been discussing just ideas on improving transportation to like Wyandotte County and just making it more accessible in general, and as well as working with Wesley to approve the Haskell, them being able to do the ID stuff. That would be super cool. And then we have someone that actually I'm not very familiar with, Lauren Winter. But if anyone does know about them and would like to speak in regards to what they know about them, that would be great. If not, I still think Lauren would be a great candidate, because these people have been suggested by the transportation coordinator. So yeah, any comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
All right, it's been moved, and do I see a second?
Second.
Oh,
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do I see any opposition to vote on the delegates? I see none. So if you would like to approve, please say aye in the chat. Nay to oppose, and abstain if you would like to abstain. All right, and it looks like that was unanimous, so that approves all of our appointments for the Transit Commission. So that's really good news. I'm gonna go ahead and email them so that they know that these are our final candidates. And yeah, I think we can get a lot of stuff done with the Transit Commission, so that's gonna be very exciting. And all right, I'm glad we were able to get through this business so fast. With that being said, we have our final item in the agenda. If folks here still want to, of course, this is up to folks here. If you don't feel like there's enough people to have this conversation, we can have it at another time. But basically, just to get an idea in the room, the problem here is that SSRR doesn't allow funding for religious groups. And this could, it was interpreted by some as unconstitutional, since we cannot discriminate anyone on base of their religion. And I know Dr. Durham said we should, fund them just because we shouldn't discriminate. But again, I don't know, this would also open the Pandora box of then any other student group being able to say hey, you denying funding to me is against the Constitution. But people are free to do that too. So it all depends on the wording. Right now, it really falls down to the wording we have in SSRR. And I know this year in SSRR, we've been making a lot of amendments to make it more flexible for funding. But yeah, I would love to hear what folks want to say. I see Holly has her hand raised.
Yeah, I guess what I don't really comprehend is I feel like DEI committee got to vote and they said no. So why is this case so special where we've had other student groups over all of the years that have, we voted on it? It's kind of like invalidating senators' right to vote and right to decide where their money should go. And I feel like if we then just give money to this group because they're kicking up a storm, that kind of invalidates the whole way our government runs. And it kind of demonstrates that there's no point to senators being senators and having a vote if then they are not, when they exercise their right to vote, they're told or pressured by a student group that they ought to give them the money anyway. Because then there's no point in voting, and we might as well just give every student group what they ask for, which is not how we are supposed to run. So that's my argument. I think it's really unfair, the amount of pressure that is being put on us as a Senate to fund people when our senators had the right to vote and decided that they did not want to do that. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Holly. I appreciate your input. And with that, we can move to Sadie, who has her hands raised.
I think Wesley may have been before me.
Oh.
I'm good with Wesley going first. I want to see, yeah.
Sounds good. Then Wesley, then if you would like to speak now, go ahead.
I would like to suggest that Senate first, before discussing either the merits of this or whether or not we think it is unconstitutional, we should first, I guess, get lawyers and counsel, whether that be through general counsel or legal services or what. I put in request legal services already to discuss with them about this in the Senate Rights email. I haven't received a request yet. but considering that everything that is said here is already being documented and will be used against us in any possible trial if they were to sue, right? It is probably best for us to not talk too much, get lawyers first, and then once we have counsel that will advise us, we can then act and discuss their advisement.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Wesley. And I actually do want to say, so the funny thing, very, 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 very funny, because we fund both of these. Well, not both of them, but technically, we requested help from the General Counsel and Legal Services for Students. And kind of what they said was that the General Counsel just doesn't work for us in the Senate, so they're not going to help us figure this out. And LSS is not going to get involved either, since it involves like 2 different organizations or something like that on this campus. So, yeah.
Then we need to put in a funding request and get our own damn counsel, because we are not helping ourselves whatsoever by talking about this. None of us are lawyers. And if they do decide to sue, what the hell would we even do to fight back without getting counsel? We should definitely take emergency action to put some sort of funding bill through to fund lawyers within the next meeting, within the next cycle. And we should also maybe reform legal services in that way. But
and before I let other folks real quick that have their hand raised speak, I do want to say, more than discussing the appeal itself, because we're not doing that here, or whether we think it's constitutional or not, it's more about whether folks think this is like something we should consider in SSRR rewriting, like allowing religious funds, just taking this regulation off our governing document for future occasions. But yeah, Sadie, can go ahead now.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Wesley said, and Max's echo as well. I was speaking with the treasurer who oversaw this diversity DEI committee meeting about it, and historical precedent and things like that. And my advice was also to not be participating in these type of formal conversations and things until we have some type of legal advice, because it has already been brought to that level on a separate party. And so I think that even talking about what SSRR and whatnot, I think that we should wait until we have that confirmation from some type of legal counsel, or just any advice, honestly. And then in order to find that, there is a sleuth of past Senate alum who are now either in law school or graduated from law school, in addition to things like that. And so I think also utilizing those alumni networks to potentially find someone who would be willing to spare 30 minutes to talk about this. That would also be something that's worth investigating before bringing a full funding bill, just to see what type of legal involvement would be necessary. And so I would say, from where I'm sitting in experience within the DEI fund and things, I think that would be my thought as best way moving forward would be to have those conversations first, try and find those people, and then after those conversations, moving forward what Senate should do in terms of our own governing documents. Those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much for those inputs. Ethan, would you like to say something?
Wesley has a motion on the floor.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second motion? It's been seconded. All right. All of those in favor, please say aye.
My thing wasn't a question, it was rather a point of order. So could I still, or not point of order, point of information, could I still state that?
Yeah, that would be in order.
Awesome. I was just wanting to know what Senate advisor is supposed to be on this call tonight, because I feel this is also a pertinent conversation to have with the advisor, but since we've ended that,
oh, look, Sarah
Oh,
Sarah's-
we got Sarah. Well, right after we ended the discussion, so.
I am so sorry, y'all.
Oh, no worries. No, everything went fine. We were just hoping to talk about some things with you, but we can talk them like once we just finish the call.
Okay, Lee, you want me to hang on and talk to you?
Yes, please.
Okie dokie.
All right.
All right.
But yeah, we are at the end of our agenda here. So I guess move forward.
Yeah. I see a motion from Wesley.
I second.